Hello, welcome back to our coverage of the UN climate talks. Maybe you just heard us frantically getting ready there. Delighted to welcome Eglantine Goux, and I'm going to ask her to introduce the name of her organisation because it sounds very beautiful in French, and I will massacre it with my English accent. So Eglantine, who do you work for and why are you here?
So I work for France Nature Environnement with a very strong French accent, and I am working on the international aspect about forests, and I'm following red aspects to fight against deforestation.
And this is an issue that we've talked about quite a lot this afternoon now, so that there's this kind of set of policies that are designed to reduce deforestation around the world, and some people seem to be quite optimistic and some people seem less optimistic, and I think we're going to have a discussion on the show in about 40 minutes between some people with different points of views. But where do you feel we're at with regards to forests at these talks? Are we going to see a solution by the end of the week, or are things going to be a disaster? What's your point of view?
I think it can't be a disaster. Mm-hmm. There is no choice. Mm-hmm. The forest aspect is the main topics of this meeting that could where we can be able to see an agreement, not a global agreement, but a decision, like all the parties start to say that there will not be a global agreement, but some decisions, and forest topics can be one of these decisions here in Cancun.
And what kind of decisions are being made? What are the possible outcomes here in Cancun?
For forest aspect, there is two things. There is reduction of deforestation and degradation of forests, and also financing this fight against deforestation. And according to Bali Action Plan in 2007, it was COP16, yes. There was a specific agreement, global, not official, but saying that we agree that developing countries must support developing countries to fight against deforestation drivers and degradation and forest degradation.
So we had this big climate conference 2 years ago, COP13, or 3 years ago was it? COP13, and there was a onus on developed countries to support poorer countries on forestry. Has that happened?
Well, there is some pledges. Means what? Means that, for example, there is after Copenhagen the last year in 2009, and there was some kind of partnerships regarding especially forests. It's named the Red Plus partnerships. It's involved. It's an initiative from France, both France and also Paris and Oslo. So there is some announcement by developing countries that they want to finance the fight against deforestation and support developing countries for that, with balancing funds for adaptation and mitigation and fight against deforestation belong to this big mitigation aspect. But we need to integrate officially in UNFCCC text. This is a big point, because you can say, okay, I will finance, but if it's not clearly identified in UNFCCC text and taken into account by the UNFCCC secretary, means that it just speak and you are not obliged to.
So if it has to be kind of integrated into the UN text, the UNFCCC, which is the climate talks here, is that happening? What needs to happen in the next week in your point of view? Where are the problems, and what needs to be done to solve them in order to have a strong agreement regarding forests and this set of policies called REDD?
Well, funds for forests must be integrated in this global green fund, as we were talking about after Copenhagen. I really believe that there will be an agreement on this global green fund to how to put in place. There is some reports already on the table to identify possible additional sources for financing, like taxes on transactions.
And taxes on shipping and aviation, is that some other possibilities?
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated here. It's another issue. I could stay 1 hour to explain that. I prefer to come back on this global green fund. And there is a very important word. It's safeguards. We can't imagine REDD plus. But it's UNFCCC words. We can't imagine a project to fight against deforestation without these safeguards.
And so what are the safeguards?
There are a lot, but mainly it's a way to avoid the worst, to avoid the financing of projects which are not really contributed to this fight against deforestation and forest degradation. For example, if we don't adopt a good definition of what is a natural forest, this means that this REDD, I can explain, reducing emission from deforestation and degradation.
This set of policies designed to reduce emissions from deforestation that's called REDD. If it's not natural forests, then
plantations.
It's plantations.
Yes.
Okay, and that they don't have the same biodiversity. They don't have the same capacity to capture carbon. Okay, so
this is very important.
And at the moment, is there a strong definition in the negotiating text about what constitutes a natural forest?
Unfortunately, now the only definition we have it's the definition, almost the definition of FAO. In French, FAO, sorry, the International Organization of Agriculture.
Yeah, okay. And you don't feel that's strong enough?
No, because, for example, palm oil can be in forest.
Okay. And they don't hold the same biodiversity and they don't hold the same potential to capture carbon. Is that the problem? If you have these kind of plantations? Yes,
if you have big plantations of palm oil trees, for example, it can be considered as a forest. And if you see on images what is a palm oil trees plantation, it's awful. There is nothing. There is only trees. And on the ground, the soils are very poor. The biodiversity is not there. So
this whether forests are natural or not is clearly one issue that we need to look out for. One safeguard that's a problem. What are the others? Are there a couple of other important ones?
Yes. There is also we need also to take into consideration indigenous people's rights. And United Nations Declaration of Indigenous People to take into consideration, and also free and prior informed consent of these indigenous people to avoid to just build a project for reforestation, for example, and say, okay, you are not, it's not your home anymore. We need to plant trees or etc. Or we want to keep the forest and without taking into consideration new needs, and they are not indigenous people, they are not using the forest like industrial, it's not industrial exploitation. It's just they are moving all around the forest, and it's sustainable way to use the forest. There is no big impact like we all the time imagine human impact on the forest. So this is also very important. And there is also a big target to reach zero deforestation in 2020.
And is that going to happen?
There is a difference of position between Europe and other parties, but I think this can be also a big discussion during this week.
Okay. So is that something that we might see movement on this week? You feel we might see kind of a target like that coming out at the end of the week and being something that's solidified?
Yes, we must be very careful because there was some the negotiation text prepared by the president, for example in Tianjin, where it was a big text with a lot of brackets,
So this is Tianjin in China, where the talks.
Yes.
There was a meeting a month ago. Yeah, it's okay. We were there. Many of our viewers may have seen it.
Okay, I was not there. Now the text is reduced, but it's difficult, to find the balance. We keep all these brackets and all these good options, and try to find at the end of this week a text, a compromise. It's very, very complicated, and sometimes we must accept that the text is reduced. We are still fighting for good safeguards in the text and all these things, but we also look for consensus to reach decision here in Cancun for forest issues.
Okay, so just before we wrap up then, I want to ask you, are you more optimistic now, or were you more optimistic before Copenhagen? Because some people have been telling me that actually the safeguards in place for REDD are less strong now than they were a year ago. Is that your perception of it, or do you think maybe not much has changed, or have we gone backwards when it comes to forestry, or have we gone forwards, or has not much changed?
Yes, I was not in Copenhagen, but I wasn't born, and I followed since August all these different types of the text. Yes, there was 5 or 6 pages of these safeguards, and now it's 1 or 2. So
that sounds worrying.
Yeah. So they reduce some, and on someone, they play on words. They said, okay, we note the declaration, the United Declaration of Indigenous People. Before it was, we want to recognize and respect this convention. So yes, the level is reduced.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll bear that in mind when we cover the issue of forestry at the end of this week then, and hopefully we'll be able to look at an agreement which is positive and which does have sufficient safeguards. Eglantine, thank you so much for coming and talking to us again, and maybe we'll catch up with you next year, yeah?
Yeah, just to add one thing, there is also, I think it's not so bad to start with a text that we can, after reinforce and strengthen it with these very important safeguards, because we also need to have a decision here, and it's for the UNFCCC system. It's important to have decisions.
So that's a nicer, more positive note to finish on. Thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Thank you. Yeah.